Gloria Steinem is a writer, lecturer, political activist, and feminist organizer. She travels around the U.S. and to other countries as an organizer and lecturer, and is a frequent media spokeswoman on issues of equality. She's particularly interested in the shared origins of sex and race caste systems, gender roles, and child abuse as roots of violence, nonviolent conflict resolutions in cultures of indigenous peoples, and organizing across boundaries for peace and justice. She graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Smith College in 1959 and soon after worked in India. Lauren Wolfe is the director of Women Under Siege. She is an award-winning journalist who has been published by The Atlantic and The New York Times. She is also a columnist at Foreign Policy magazine and on the advisory committee of the International Campaign to Stop Rape and Gender Violence and Conflict. Previously, she was the senior editor of the Committee to Protect Journalists, where she broke ground on the issue of journalists and sexualized violence. She studied at Wesleyan University in Columbia's Graduate School of Journalism. In 2013, Action on Armed Violence listed her as one of the top 100 most influential journalists covering armed violence. The organization. Women Under Siege is a journalism project that investigates how rape and other forms of sexual violence are used as tools in genocide and conflict throughout the 20th and 21st century. They serve as a global chorus for rape victims during wartime who are silenced and shamed globally. The organization's founding was influenced by several books about the atrocities and rapes committed by the Nazis during the Holocaust. Their belief that understanding what happened then might have helped us prevent or prepare for the mass sexual assaults of other conflicts, from Bosnia to the Democratic Republic of Congo. This project is exploring this linkage to heighten the public consciousness of causes and preventions. They have a strong Twitter following, and they often post reports regarding wartime rape. You can check their Twitter or Facebook out below. In addition to Twitter and Facebook, the organization's efforts have gotten the attention of the international community.
In July of 2012, Lauren Wolfe appeared in front of representatives of the UN Security Council to present a report about sexual violence in Syria. Women Under Siege has collected information from conflicts since World War II. The advent of social media and other technologies allowed for information to be shared on an unprecedented scale. Because of this, she argued that the world was in a position to prevent the terrible crimes that have happened in previous conflicts. We only learned about Rwanda and Bosnia after the fact. Syria gave the UN and the world a chance to act. Wolfe presented a crowdsourced map of incidences of rape reported in real time. Findings were startling, showing that rape was occurring on such a large scale that it was clearly organized and condoned by a larger force. Reports also showed that Syrian government forces were perpetrating nearly 75% of the sexual violence. Her conclusion was simple. The world must force Syria to allow human rights monitors and send a concrete message that every rape is considered a war crime and will be punished as such. Unfortunately, this was reported in 2012 and the violence in Syria is still escalating. Just this week, forces loyal to the government recaptured the city of Aleppo. The city has been contested for quite some time and is strategically very important, so all sides have tended to forget about the real people living in the city. It has been a living hell for the citizens of Aleppo for the past few days, with many women and girls choosing to commit suicide rather than face inevitable rape and murder at the hands of Assad's soldiers. The international community, even when faced with this clear evidence of rape as a tool of war, has largely done nothing. They have ignored the plea of Lauren Wolfe to act before it becomes another past tragedy. Instead, the conflict continues. The UN's top human rights official has accused the U.S. and others of collectively wringing their hands and letting business go on as usual. Worse than that, there's significant international support for the Assad regime even now. Russia has continued to support the actions of the government, and Iran has military forces at Aleppo supporting Syrian ones. What this shows is the systemic and sustained implication that women, and particularly ones in that part of the world, do not count as human beings. This is a clear instance of a gender-motivated war crime. Yet, the Russians still support it for their own political objectives. The United States will not fully intervene because we refuse to risk open conflict with Russia, and so, thousands of women are systematically raped and murdered while the world watches. This is precisely why we need organizations like Women Under Siege. The only way to stop events like this from occurring is to raise awareness. If the world does not take notice, then it will not end. Women Under Siege is forcing people to take notice.
Women Under Siege's main purpose is to raise awareness. Women Under Siege's conflict profiles on 11 different regions offer compact but powerful summaries and analyses of the conflict history, the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war, the patterns of violence, and statistics of sexual violence. They also provide a short analysis of the cultural gender attitudes in relation to the perpetration of sexual violence and an analysis of the effects of this violence on society, all in one compact, easy-to-process page. Additionally, Women Under Siege raises awareness by reporting on specific examples of gender-based violence with its blog posts that provide insights into the reality and effects of this violence in a wide range of areas, and by providing a platform for personal accounts of sexual violence to be heard with its personal witness accounts. Women Under Siege's choice to focus on raising awareness is significant because until sexual violence is visible in public, it cannot be successfully addressed and prosecuted. But more than simply raising awareness about what kind of and how much sexual violence is occurring in these areas, Women Under Siege raises awareness about how and why it is used in specific contexts. Women Under Siege addresses the variety of ways that sexual violence can be used as a weapon of war, emphasizing its context-dependent nature. While of course there are common themes in the use of sexual violence in war, in many areas of conflict, it is used more intentionally than simply as a tool to assert power and instill fear. In Burma, it's used to degrade religion, where the SPDC often perpetrates sexual violence in places of worship to assert that not even religion is a place of sanctuary. In Mexico, it's used to make money as forcibly kidnapped women are used by drug cartels to transport drugs across the border or forced into the prostitution industry. In Burma, North Korea, Sri Lanka, Darfur, Sudan, Rwanda, and Bosnia, it's used for ethnic cleansing, either by forced and violent sterilizations or by rape in order to occupy inferior wombs with superior sperm. Additionally, Women Under Siege considers the cultural gender attitudes in the areas of conflict where sexual violence is prevalent, and considers how these attitudes both contribute to its use in times of war and how they affect the treatment and recovery of victims. In many of these places, cultural norms requiring women's subordination to man and viewing women as property effectively support sexual violence even in times of peace. These kinds of cultural gender attitudes often lead to victims being considered unfaithful and impure and being ostracized by not just society but also their families. Worse yet, in some places, women who report rape are more likely to receive harsh physical punishment than support.
This is an excerpt from the testimony of Bang Mi Sun, a woman captured after fleeing the North Korea border. Mrs. Bang Mi Sun observed 10 pregnant women in early 2002 taken to a hospital from the Musan Anjeon-bu detention facility for the purposes of aborting their half-Chinese babies. Another 7-month pregnant woman adamantly refused to go to the hospital, and guards compelled male prisoners to jump on her stomach until the woman aborted on the floor. The woman was then taken to the hospital, where she died.
Mersada, 17, recalls her experience in a rape camp in Bosnia. The White Eagles would come to get us every night. They would bring us back in the morning. There were nights when more than 20 of them came. That seemed to be some kind of honor. They did all kinds of things to us. It cannot be described, and I don't want to remember. We had to cook for them and serve them, naked. They raped and slaughtered some girls right in front of us. Those who resisted had their breasts cut.
The statement from a survivor in Rwanda referring to the day she was gang raped, beaten unconscious, and woken up to the killing of the people around her. The statement was made 10 years later. I regret that I didn't die that day. Those men and women who died are now at peace, whereas I am still here to suffer even more. I'm handicapped in the true sense of the word. I don't know how to explain it. I regret that I'm alive because I've lost my lust for life. We survivors are brokenhearted. We live in a situation which overwhelms us. Our wounds become deeper every day. We are constantly in mourning.
Women Under Siege relies on donations to accomplish its mission across the world. Contributions are critical to its operation. You can donate at their website or by mail. We have listed both on the last slide.